Greetings, Internet. Today, let's have a talk about music. It may possibly be old-fashioned, but I've never really got into the current trend of streaming my music. I don't have a Spotify account, I don't really listen to music on YouTube. Pretty much all the music I listen to is in MP3 format. And since Amazon started their MP3 store, I've pretty much stopped buying CDs altogether. But as you may have seen me tweet earlier this month, there are still two bands from which I will buy physical CD releases, because I have all of their other ones and I want the complete collection. Both of those bands have released a new album this month, so I figured I'd take this video to talk to you a bit about them both. The first, from earlier this month, was Iron Maiden's Book of Souls, which is being a bit too reflective. I was generally hopeful and looking forward to the release of this album. That was until the single Speed of Light came out. And unfortunately, when I heard that, I wasn't particularly wowed or impressed by it. Although I've since realised that part of the problem was that I didn't enjoy the video that went with it. It was cheap and poorly done in my opinion, and on subsequent listens, audio only, it did grow on me a bit. But really, I hadn't been instantly amazed by an Iron Maiden single that made me think, oh wow, I must have this album now, since Wildest Dreams. And that was 12 years and 3 albums ago. But still, Iron Maiden have always been one of my favourite bands, and they have provided me with a number of musical firsts. Back when I was 14, that was the first live concert I ever went to see, and their album Power Slave, although on cassette, was pretty much the first metal album I ever bought. But unfortunately, when the time came to listen to the full album, it just didn't blow me away. It was very mediocre, and same as the previous 2 albums, just not very memorable. I don't think I could quote you a line of this, or The Final Frontier, or The Matter of Life and Death. I wonder if maybe as they've got all older and mellowed and settled, they've just kind of lost the edge. There are a few good moments on the album, but not an entire track, and certainly not enough to fill an entire album. Admittedly, I've only listened to the whole thing through twice so far, but after that it isn't really making me want to listen to it more. I likely wouldn't skip it if it came on in a shuffle, but I'm probably very rarely going to put it on purpose. Final problem I have with it is the artwork, which is kind of disappointing. It's a nice enough variation of Eddie, but on a black background it's so boring, which I guess kind of matches the style of the album. But when you compare it to some of their old artworks, it's just so disappointing. I miss the Derek Riggs days. So, while Iron Maiden are one of my favourites, if you look at my Last.fm stats, you'll see that they're only number 2. Number 1 is the other band which released an album this month, Annihilator. I got the deluxe edition of this one, which has a fancy multi-directional lenticular case, which is cool, but when I saw it, my first thought was that it looks very similar to Judas Priest's album, Jugulator. Not that that really matters all that much. It's likely coincidence, it could be a tribute, but either way, that's fine. And of course, more important is the quality of the music. Unlike Iron Maiden's release, the Annihilator CD has only been out a week, and I've already listened to it 5 or 6 times. Annihilator have never really quite got the recognition I believe they deserve, and part of that is because over the years they've had a lot of lineup changes. But what you've got to realise is that through all that, there's always been one guy at the core, Jeff Waters, and it's pretty much the Jeff Waters project, and he just gathers around whatever musicians are available at the time. He's pretty much written 98% of all the songs, and on some albums he's recorded the entirety of the thing himself and then just picked a band to go tour with. And because of that, I've always found them to be extremely consistent, and I don't think there's a single Annihilator song I don't like. There's driving guitars with excellent harmonies, there's fancy guitar solos, then next they can slow it down with a much softer ballad, but it still works. The lyrics cover the usual metal topics: war, destruction, death, also politics, environmentalism, relationships, and things like chess or macaroni and cheese. That's quite a wide variety, and it's always enormous fun to listen to. It's powerful and well crafted, and it always puts me in a good mood when I listen to it. And this new album is no exception. I think my favourite track so far is the one called Snap. If you happen to be a fan of thrash or speed metal and have not listened to Annihilator, you should could get on that right now. Although there is one minor issue I will pick out, although Maiden suffer from the same problem this time around, is that a few times I feel like, oh, I've heard a slight variation of this riff before, like they're accidentally plagiarising themselves. But I suppose when both bands have been releasing albums since the 80s, that's gonna happen. So let me know down in the comments below what you've been listening to recently, or any other music recommendations, and I will see you again next week.